What's going on, everybody? It is Big Game James. I'm back in effect, man. It's been like a long ass week, but guess what? We still riding strong here, and I got a special guest today because I said I need to get on my draft stuff. People hit me up last week and said, "Come on, Big Game, we gonna start talking about this damn draft." I'm like, "Damn, I'm behind, y'all. I don't mess with that until like first year." But I said, "Okay, I'm gonna bring a draft guy because he makes books, he does everything, blogging the boys." My guy Connor Livesay was on with me last year on the draft time, this time last year, and we talked a lot of draft stuff. But he blessed me again with my platform. What's up, big bro? How you doing, man?
I'm hanging in there. How you doing, bro?
Hey, man, like I said, I'm hanging in there too, ready to pick your brain. I'm gonna pick the hell out of that brain.
I'm ready. I'm ready. We
Good,
still got a lot of work to do, but
man.
we got a lot of knowledge in the brain right now to give the listeners some information. So I'm ready.
Good, because we're gonna need it because it's a lot of bad things going on in Dallas right now. We need to figure we need to figure this out for real, for real.
That's
So
right.
before we jump on anything with draft, the free agency, anything about, just give me your thoughts about the Cowboys this season, just in a nutshell, and kind of what's your feelings going beyond.
You want me to keep this PG or?
No, man, keep it. No, we don't do that shit over here, dog. We don't do that over here. We keep it super real.
They
So say it what you how you want to say.
they are atrocious.
Hmm.
It's just it's. I mean, again, they went against Cincinnati. I'm sure there's some fans out there who think they're back. There's probably some optimism, but that Cincinnati team is one of the two worst teams in football. They
Hmm.
might not be the Jets, but they're pretty damn close.
Hmm.
Um, they don't have a good coaching staff. They don't have any good quarterbacks right now. They don't have any good running backs. Their offensive line's terrible. Their defense is terrible. So, yeah, you beat up on an opponent that just about anybody in the league should be able to beat up on. And you really didn't even look that good doing it. They just handed you the ball 3 times and you got a good kick return. So
Pretty
that's kind of
much.
that's the bad part is
Hmm.
the offense really didn't even look fantastic. The
Right.
defense scored a touchdown. They gave you two footballs, on short fields, and Tony Pollard gave you a really nice kick return. So it's not like the offense just dominated.
Hmm.
So I mean, again, the Cowboys don't have their starting quarterback. That's huge.
Hmm.
Anytime you're missing the amount of offensive linemen they're missing, it's going to hurt.
Hmm.
But I think from a defense perspective, that's when you kind of got to be disappointed because, yeah, they've had some injuries. But, I mean, I don't think anybody, losing Cheeto Awuzie, yeah, it hurts, but it shouldn't make your defense as bad as it's been.
Right.
Same goes for Gerald McCoy and Don Terry Poe and those guys who aren't on the roster anymore. It shouldn't be as detrimental as it's been. So that's been the most concerning part for me is just how bad that defense is. We knew it wasn't going to be great, but we didn't think it was going to be historically bad.
Right. Right. Well, we had Mike Fisher on Tuesday, and he was saying this. I want to get your quick thoughts on this. He was saying that when they tried to make this switch from the 4-3 to the 3-4, doing hybrid, doing multiple schemes, that it was a failure from the beginning. The main reason was because they did a lot of things on Zoom. They didn't, we had no kind of training camp. We had no kind of off season. We had no kind of rookie camp, no mini camp, no preseason games. You had 30 days to just implement it, and you were basically teaching 3-4 principles over Zoom. And you really need to do some field work before you can really jump into that. Do you think that was the major detriment this year? And you think they should have probably just stayed with the 4-3 and kind of just wrote it out and think about next year of going switching multiple?
It definitely didn't help. But again, Tank at Boise State played in a multiple front where he was standing up as a rusher. He was dropping the coverage at Boise State. Same goes for Alden Smith, who played in 3-4 and 4-3 fronts. So really, I mean, it doesn't bother the secondary a ton. They do a lot of match coverages with Mike Nolan's scheme. So that they're doing a few things different in the secondary, but that front seven, I mean, LVE played at Boise State as well, so he's used to doing a few different things. So really the only players that it should have been a major impact on is probably, Jalen Smith, who played in a 4-3 front at Notre Dame, and he's been in Rod Marinelli's front for multiple years. But I think, it shouldn't have been same what I was saying with the few injuries that they had on defense. I don't think the lack of practice reps and the lack of time on the field with the scheme should result in this poor of play. I mean, as you see, I'm a big DeMarcus Lawrence fan. I think that even though the sacks don't say he's, TJ Watt, he impacts the game in so many different ways with his effort, with his ability to play the run, ability to move around. He's still having a really good year. The sacks aren't there. I think he's got 4.5 sacks. He doesn't, he's not a double-digit sacks, but he's having a good year. A guy when you're relying on a guy like Alden Smith, who hasn't played football in however many years, that's going to eventually catch up to you. And I think you're kind of seeing him hit that wall now.
Yeah.
But I think the disappointing thing is we still haven't seen Bradley and Nye because they want to continue to throw Dorrance Armstrong out there, which, Dorrance Armstrong isn't, a terrible player by any means, but he's also not a player that should be taking snaps away from a young Bradley and Nye who could be a difference maker on your team in the future. So it's very confusing when I'm trying to put a finger on what this team wants to do and what it needs to do. Because it needs to be playing Reggie Robinson. It needs to be playing Bradley and Nye. It needs to be, they did do it with Neville Gallimore. They're doing it with some of the guys, but they're not really completely investing in let's get the young guys these reps and see where we're going to be at for 2021, which is disappointing for somebody who's ready to move on to 2021.
Exactly. We're definitely ready to do that. Let me give a few shout outs to my peoples in here, and then we'll jump on some other things. Chris Killings, what's up with you? Oh, Sheila. What's up? The Lunatic, Boo Things in there. Kid Roscoe, what's going on? Draft time. My people's out here. Thurston Howell the third, what's up? Alexandra Guerrero, what's going on with y'all? Keep on. Make sure you like, and share this around, but make sure you like, because it don't cost nothing to like this right now. We're going to get some really good stuff going on here. So keep on building up and getting the building, because we're going to talk about some good explosive stuff. I definitely feel what you were saying about that is kind of frustrating. Just all the way around, like how this defense fell off so bad. I mean, it was in the middle level with Rob Marinelli, but it was more of a basic scheme with Marinelli. Nolan comes in with a little bit more sophisticated type scheme, and then it just all falls apart. So it begs my question is, I know it was short and it was early and it was kind of maybe pushed and forced upon, but is this also saying that maybe we don't have strong football IQ players? Because you made this switch and they just totally fell apart. Are we worried about maybe our linebackers or some of these guys maybe not football IQ ready because it just fell in shambles with just a little bit of a tweak?
Yeah, no, and I think guys like Chris Richard, even Rod Marinelli have said hints of that in years in the past. I know last year Chris Richard said something along the lines of, if you don't have the players to do these disguises in the secondary, then you can't do them. And we kind of rolled our eyes at that at the time because we didn't like Chris Richard last year because the defense was struggling. But I think you're seeing now that he probably was accurate, that you might, but your Cheeto Awuzies and your Jordan Lewis's, Anthony Browns, they might not be athletic, smart, and intelligent enough to be able to play those mix match coverages where they're reading one side of the field, playing on another. And that's what I think you're seeing. But guys like Trayvon Diggs, who played in a ton of different schemes at Alabama, they play match schemes, cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, zone man schemes. He's seen it all. So I think when you saw his bust in coverage early in the year, that was a bit concerning because he had seen it all at Alabama with Nick Saban. They lined up in so many different, alignments, playing so many different coverages at Alabama. So that was a little bit concerning. But I think it, I replied to one of your tweets the other day, actually, because I said something about George Edwards. And I saw a lot of people commenting on that going, well, it's not fair to George Edwards because of how bad this team is, but everybody wants to move on from Mike Nolan. Do I think Mike Nolan's a great defense coordinator? Absolutely not. Do I even think he's a good defensive coordinator? Probably not, but it's not fair for us to say, oh, it's not fair to George Edwards, but we have to get rid of Mike Nolan as soon as possible because Mike Nolan's dealing with the same players that George Edwards would be too. So I think you have a mix of not a very good coordinator and not a good roster on defense. And when you put those two things together, you get a defense who might be on pace to give up the most points in NFL history.
Okay, now within saying that, now, like I said, I brought the George Edward things up. Me and my guy, BJ Nix, he's the one that actually threw it at me. And then I kind of just like, I understand it. So is this going to be, because we heard Jerry say that, you know what, we shouldn't have did that switch so early. We shouldn't have made the switch over. We shouldn't have did this. We shouldn't have did that. We heard some stuff on defense. knowing Jerry Jones, I don't know him greatly, but I know a little bit of his ways. Knowing Jerry Jones with this situations, and George Edwards is this name that keeps coming up now, do you think Jerry Jones will be like he did with Mike McCarthy and say, let's just switch over and go in-house. Let's just immediately move George Edwards, maybe move on from Mike Nolan, give him a different position and just slide on in? Or will they actually say, we're going to do a detailed search. We're going to let the coach kind of pick, but we're going to do a detailed search to how this goes. Do you think it's going to be handed to George Edwards, or do you think this is going to be a search? And who do you think is going to make this final call on the coordinator, the Joneses or McCarthy?
See, I'm not even 100% sure they're going to move on from Mike Nolan. I can
Really?
see where they're so in love with Mike McCarthy that Mike McCarthy might talk the Joneses into letting Mike Nolan get another year. I mean, we've heard things the last few weeks where Jerry and Mike McCarthy were like shocked that people would bring up the question of, is Mike McCarthy going to be back? Which, again, I've said this on the internet. I think I didn't like the Mike McCarthy hire at the time, and obviously I'm not like loving it right now. But at the same time, it's kind of unfair to fire him after this year when you lose your quarterback and most of your offensive linemen. I mean, again, like I think
I didn't mean to cut you off, but why didn't you like the Mike McCarthy hire?
I just think when you look at his track record the last few years in Green Bay, they were a team that was struggling to win football. I mean, they were third in the division, fourth in the division, struggled to win football games with I know Aaron Rodgers had missed some games, but when you're supposed to be, a generational head coach or, one of the best head coaches in the league, you find ways to overcome that. We've seen it with Ron Rivera. We've seen it with Kyle Shanahan. We've seen it with, even the Jaguars. I've said that on a podcast the other day. The Jaguars aren't a good football team, but they've actually stayed pretty competitive this year. Again, they got blown out multiple weeks too, but they've played some close games against some pretty tough opponents this week. So, this year, I should say. So, I just when the hire was made, I just felt like they didn't do a detailed search, kind of something you just mentioned with the defense coordinator job. They hired the first guy that they interviewed. The guy had been out of football, and I felt like, again, we know how the Joneses operate a little bit, and I feel like if you can give them some kind of shock value, they like that. And I think with the whole, barn project that was being televised and how he was being talked about so much, the Joneses liked that because they knew that, while his program's going on NFL Network talking about how he's dove into analytics, he's figured out how to coach and figured out how to be a great head coach after he went through some struggles. Like that just meshes so well with what the Joneses like, and that attention in, what's ever in the news, let's bring him into here. And I think that was, probably a big reason they went that direction. I think he, probably interviewed well, got along real well with the Joneses, and they didn't want to look any further. So that's what concerns me about the defense coordinator job too, is that they're just going to let Mike McCarthy make that decision. And I just, I've heard a lot of people say that they're going to force Mike McCarthy to fire Mike Nolan. And I just don't think that that's accurate at all. I think if Mike McCarthy sees that Mike Nolan's not the answer, which I don't think he is, I would move on from him. But I can see a situation where, Mike McCarthy goes, I'm going to give my guy another year. And you could be dealing with Mike Nolan again in 2021, which I'm not a fan of. But I think
hell no, we're gonna be mad as shit. He's gonna be mad as shit. Like I was on the Mike McCarthy. I'm gonna keep it real, Connor. I was on the Mike McCarthy thing because I was a little skeptical about the college coaches. I like Urban Meyer if they were looked at, but I know Urban Meyer he be quitting. And that's why I was like, I don't want that. You know what I'm saying? I guess I wanted to go with somebody who I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie, Connor. I was hyped up because he used to whoop our ass in Green Bay. He won all them damn games. But then I started going deeper in that Green Bay stuff, man. And Aaron Rodgers was carrying you because when you didn't have Aaron Rodgers, you lost games. And people in Green Bay chirped really a lot about Mike McCarthy, about things that are happening in Dallas, discipline problems, lack of effort. They were saying those things in Green Bay, and it's rearing its ugly head over here. So it's a little bit concerning. So we'll see how that happens. I got my guy on here, Eric Munez, I think it is. He says he's a huge fan of you, Connor. Please ask him for a shout out. Eric Munez.
Oh, Eric's my guy. Okay. Eric's my guy. We're always going back and forth on Twitter. I always love our intercourse. So I appreciate Eric, and keep listening to my man, Big Game.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, say y'all must be going at it because he said y'all be going back and forth on Twitter. That must be one of your Twitter battles that you be having because you be having a whole gang of them.
No, he's normally one that agrees with me, believe it or not.
Because you be having battles on that Twitter, big dog.
Them mentions are horrible, dude.
I love it. I love it though, because that's what I like about you. Because you don't give a hell. That's what I like about you. All right, so let's talk about last year. I brought up, when we talked last year. We talked a lot of draft picks last year. I'm going to throw out some names from last year, and tell me, did any of these guys have you checked in these guys, or were they impressive? And these were the defensive tackles. Just some names: Devon Hamilton over at Jacksonville,
Yep.
Raekwon Davis over at Miami. Carlos Davis, that's over at Pittsburgh. Who else? Ross Blaylock from Houston. What did any defensive tackles that came out from this year's draft really stand out to you? Like, man, he really impressed me at the front on that defensive tackle position.
I was watching Houston the other day, and I haven't really gone. I do that at the end of the year where I kind of go back and start looking at the guys that I graded and see how they're doing. But I was watching Houston the other day. I think when they were playing Cleveland, I can't remember what game it was, but I saw Ross Blacklock playing. And he looks stout. Again, he's a rotational guy for them right now. Most of these interior guys are, other than Derek Brown, who is kind of a stud coming out of Auburn. He's been doing really, really well in Carolina. So he's been fun to watch. But really, Neville Gallimore was one of my next few guys that I was a big fan of. And I think he's really come into his own here recently in Dallas. Obviously, I've seen a lot more of him than I have of these other guys. But I mean, again, like I think since taking over once Dontario Poe was released, you've seen, he had that Pittsburgh game where you just flashed consistently, and he hasn't had that kind of game yet since then. But he's been solid against the run. He makes 2 to 3 splash plays a game where he gets into the backfield and makes his again, he doesn't have a sack, but he's disruptive, and that's what he was at Oklahoma. He wasn't always a guy who was going to finish. He wasn't going to get 10 to 12 sacks, but he was going to be disruptive. And I think the biggest thing with Gallimore is he just needs to be more consistent. And I think that if he can do that, he can be a really key piece to this defensive front. But yeah, Carlos Davis, he was another guy that we liked. Raekwon Davis, he was another guy that we liked as well. But I think, the defensive tackle group last year wasn't great, and this year it's even worse. So that's what we're worried about, I think, is we're not really seeing this influx of defensive linemen that we were hoping to, because that's one of the biggest holes on this Cowboys roster.
Right. Now, on the defensive tackle position, you mentioned Gallimore. You got Tristan Hill coming back next year from ACL surgery. He should be good. Those ACLs aren't as bad as they used to be back in the day. I don't know what's going to happen with Antoine Woods because he was on the exclusive 1-year deal. And then you got Granny Hips Crawford. So out of that lineup, would you move Gallimore to the 1 tech, or would you keep him at the 3 like with Tristan Hill? Would those 2 guys be your 3 techs? You bring Antoine Woods back, and then you look for the defensive tackle, maybe via free agency or the draft. But what do you think about that? You think they'll move over Gallimore to the 1 tech or keep him at the 3?
I think he's a guy that can do either. He's big enough to play that 1. He played a lot of nose at Oklahoma, so he's kind of used to having to eat up those double teams. And obviously, first year in the league, you're not used to the bigger, stronger, faster, better athletes that you're seeing in the NFL from college. So he's used to playing a lot of nose tackle. He did it at Oklahoma, so he can be your 1 or your 3. I think in a situation where, let's just say you don't add anybody premier to that position, you're probably looking at Gallimore playing your 1 and Tristan Hill being your 3, because you definitely don't want to see Tristan Hill as your 1. Right. He just doesn't have the strength to hold up. And again, like, you're seeing snaps where Gallimore doesn't either, but he is a rookie. He's still kind of learning the ways. He's going to build up he's going to have a full year in an NFL weight room. So he's going to get stronger. He's hopefully going to get more, learn to be more explosive, learn to be more disruptive. So, I think, I'm sure we're going to get to it, but I think that free agency is going to be huge to either, again, I like Antoine Woods. I think he's a solid player, but I think there's guys out there that you could find that can be better than Antoine Woods. And that could, I mean, I think if that position, if defensive tackle can be greatly improved from now to where it is in 2021, I think that could make your defense a lot better because it's going to free your linebackers up. If you can get some pass rush, it's going to free DeMarcus Lawrence up. And then, if you have still have guys like Alden Smith, Randy Gregory, it's going to free them up as well. So if you can upgrade, the defensive tackle spot, I think that can make your linebackers better, your edge rushers better. And then, the guys lined up, when you do blitz a corner, you do blitz a safety. If you've got guys that can eat up blocks and hold guys at the point of attack, they'll help those guys get home too.
That's the biggest problem, Connor, because we don't have somebody that can hold that point of attack. Like you said, I like Antoine Woods, but I just feel like in a 16-game season, if he's your one tech, he's not going to be the guy. When they put a double team on him and they start pushing him out the way, and it's nothing against him. I just feel like you need one of those 6'4", 6'5", 330 type guys to really hold that point of attack. You know what I'm saying? And then bring Antoine Woods off the bench and rotate him because that'll keep those guys fresh. That's what I like about Antoine Woods. I think he's better a bench player than a starter, and that's no knock on him. That's just what I see in my opinion. Now, we got a question right here, and then we're going to jump on your article that you wrote about your guys in free agency. But my guy, Young Wilson, shout out to you, says, James, do you draft a D tackle 1 or offensive tackle if we're stuck with the top 4 pick? What would you do? I would not do a defensive tackle because this draft is not good for no defensive tackle. So that's where I would go offensive tackle. But me personally, I don't want that pick. I want to trade out of that shit and get a gang of picks. What about you?
Yeah, if that's my only option is take the top-rated defensive tackle or probably the second-rated offensive tackle because Cincinnati's more than likely is going to take Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle. If those are my only two options is to take the defensive tackle or the OT, you take the OT because there's not a defensive tackle that's going to be, anywhere close. There shouldn't be. We've seen this team do crazy things before. So our luck is they'll draft a Marvin Wilson or a Christian Barrymore and we'll end up having to complain about that one for a while. But if that's our only option, you'd probably be looking at Rashawn Slater, the Northwestern offensive tackle.
I like him.
Who I think is going to be my top-rated offensive tackle over Sewell.
Me too.
I like Slater.
He's nasty. He's nasty, dog.
He is. Yeah, he's he doesn't have the longest arms. He's short-armed, but that's about it because he's an athlete. He's not very stiff. He moves well. He can play guard. And I think, a lot of people talk about Sewell as a guy like, oh, let's draft him and play him at left guard, and move Connor Williams to the offense, the swing tackle. But if you want a guy who's going to come in and play guard for you from day one, Rashawn Slater is probably the better option of a guy that could do both. And I think he's just as talented. He just obviously plays at Northwestern. He doesn't have the name recognition yet, but I think that as the draft season progresses, you'll hear a lot more people talking about Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern.
Yeah, he's nasty, dog. I ain't going to lie. I didn't know anything about him. I just happened to hear a Vach Lombardi say something about him. And then I instantly just went on YouTube and checked him out. And then I was like, whoa, this guy is nice, dog. And he can get to that second level. He is supremely athletic. He's a big boy, and he's nasty with it. Like, he'll put them hands on you, dog, and he'll get after you. And I like that. I like them offensive linemen that nasty like that. And I like you said, and I think he hasn't even touched his surface. I think he's trending up. I think he's going to get even better and better and better. So, yes, I agree with you with that Slater. I think he's eventually going to take over Sewell. I've seen Sewell, and when I watch Slater and watch Sewell, I'm like, I like
it's 1A and 1. Yeah, it's 1A, 1B. You probably can't go wrong with either or. There's just, like I said, I think, Sewell's got probably better traits as far as a traits perspective, but I like Slater's tape probably a little bit more. So again, you're splitting hairs at that point. You got a 1A, a 1B. I'm pretty sure Cincinnati's probably going to end up taking Sewell just because they need that for sure tackle to pair with Jonah Williams. So Slater's probably going to be the next guy to go. And if those are your only two options, a defensive tackle and offensive tackle, definitely take that OT and hopefully it all works out. I mean, again, I don't want to draft either one of those positions in the top 5.
Exactly.
But if you had to, that's what I would do.
I totally agree with you. I don't want to touch either one of those right now. So We already know what we've been dealing with the free agency tip, man, with Stephen Jones. It's been crazy. We know about the bargain bin shopping, but I will give him a little bit of credit. The last couple of years, he did go out and get a Robert Quinn, surprised me. They went out and got, Randall Cobb. This is surprising signings than even last year, with Gerald McCoy, HaHa Diggs, Dontari Poe, which we saw what actually happened. I think it was a little bit of a shut-up signing to me. I said them Cowboys do shut-up signings for us to shut the hell up. Here, we got a couple defensive tackles now, shut the hell up. But them guys weren't maybe the guys. They were past their prime possibly. And then we were kind of getting them on the back end, and they were going to be a little bit cheaper. You know what I'm saying? So you wrote an article just recently a couple of days ago, and you named 3 defensive tackles that you thought could basically help Dallas, and they could be affordable for Dallas. Name those 3 guys. If nobody read the article, name these 3 guys and talk about what they would add to the Cowboys, especially maybe the one tech position.
Yeah, if you're looking at that one technique, Dalvin Tomlinson, you probably have seen, heard, or witnessed him do some things for the New York Giants here recently. He's a big one technique. He played at Alabama. He was a second-round pick for the Giants, 2016, 17. I can't remember what year he's drafted, but he's just a force, man. He's a big dude. He rushes the passer well as a one technique nose tackle. And I think he'd be out of the 3 guys that I listed in that article, he's the only guy that you really want playing that nose one tackle. He's strong at the point of attack. He can eat up double teams. He's a force against the run. He makes plays laterally. He can be disruptive in the backfield. So, I think he's like my top option because I think he can make your whole defense better. And again, he's never going to have 8, 9, 10 sacks. He's not going to be Aaron Donald, but what he's going to do is allow Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch to be better at their jobs. He's going to get DeMarcus Lawrence home. He's going to get Neville Gallimore and Tristan Hill home more because he's not going to have, the guard also blocking the 3 technique. He's going to be able to eat up those blocks. He's going to be able to get off of blocks, make plays against the run, rush the passer, push the pocket. He's more of a strong push the pocket type of pass rusher. He's not going to wow you with pass rush moves. But if you're looking for a guy like that, that's where Sheldon Rankins, he's with the Saints. He was a first-round draft pick from the Saints. And then also Shelby Harris, who plays more of a defensive end role in a 3-4 scheme for Vic Fangio in Denver. But he can also slide in, kind of be what I described him as is he can be a much upgraded Tyrone Crawford, a guy who can play that 3 technique, can play some end for you if you needed him to. But he's a 6'3", 300-pound guy. He wins with pass rush moves, with quickness, with strength. Dalvin Tomlinson, Sheldon Rankins, and Shelby Harris are my 3 guys that I would go to in this free agency class and try to get one of them for sure. And if you could get a Shelby Harris and a Dalvin Tomlinson, that would just be huge. I don't know if the funds will allow for that, but I love Shelby Harris as a 3 technique that again, he's going to be solid against the run, but he's not going to be the guy that improves the play of your linebackers. Right. Probably not the guy that improves the play of the guy to the left and the right of him, but he'll get you, 4, 5, 6 sacks a year, more than likely, be solid against the run. And I know PFF, a lot of people, I don't live or die by Pro Football Focus, but I do kind of use their grading scales to kind of match with what I see on tape, and they are massive fans of Shelby Harris. He's a 30-year-old guy. I just don't see Denver retaining him because they're kind of rebuilding and bringing back 30-year-old guys who could probably get 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe even $9 million on the open market isn't what rebuilding teams want to do. So Sheldon Rankins is probably the most noticeable guy on that list. He's solid too. He's battled some injury, more of in a rotation role right now with the Saints because they do have Malcolm Brown and David Onyemata. But Sheldon Rankins is a kind of more of a pass rusher than a run defender, 290, 95 pounds. He's going to be a pass rusher, a penetrator, a guy that gets in the backfield, rushes the passer. Shelby Harris also fits that mold, and Dalvin Tomlinson's going to be that, nose tackle that can play the run. He can rush the passer a little bit too and make everybody around him better.
Now, I read that, and that Tomlinson kid that you was telling me about the Giants, I'm loving that because that's the guy that when I looked at what we're talking about, what Dallas needs, I totally agreed with you with that. He's the guy. He's a space eater. He's a big, thick body. He's a space eater. He can hold that double team, and he can keep your linebackers free. Like you said, he may not be the biggest pass rusher, but I don't need that right now. What I need is somebody can hold that point of attack, keep our linebackers free, maybe keep our tackle beside him, help a DeMarcus Lawrence out, help your outside guys. Because if we had that guy in the middle, Connor, that solid one tech, it would make everybody else better around him. Because we keep, I've been on DeMarcus Lawrence's ass this year. I ain't gonna lie, I've been on his ass. I ain't said he's not a very good player, but I just said he ain't great. That's all I said. I just don't think he's great. I think he's a very good player, but I think he can be even better when he gets that solid one tech in there, because it takes the pressure off of him. Because and I know, Connor, if you don't have that guy in the middle, they're looking on them outsides like, we're going to peel you guys all day, because we're not scared of anybody up front, and we're just going to gas you up the middle. So it's going to negate your defensive ends. So we really need that guy in the middle. Now, I remember what you said at Sheldon Rankins. I watched him when he was in college. I like that, but me personally, Connor, I want what you was talking about with Tomlinson. Shelby would be great. I get it, but I want that guy in the middle. We need a guy in the middle. It's been a long time since we've had a guy in the middle that people are like, hey, we need to focus on this guy, and we need to stop this guy, because if we don't, it's going to mess up our program. And we just don't have that guy right now. Now, do you think that Tomlinson, or realistically we could sign him to an affordable price if he was out there?
I think so, just because I don't think your nose tackles make a ton of money in free agency. You saw a guy like Damon Harrison, who's always been a quality run defender. He's always been a big space eater. Again, he's not going to get you 5, 6, 7 sacks a year, but he's going to be a good run defender. And he was a free agent up until I think week 4. Seattle signed him right before we played Seattle. So it might've been week 3 where they signed him. And he's still kind of bouncing back and forth between the practice squad and the active roster. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, again, Harrison's, 32 years old. So you're talking about a young guy and an older guy. But, I think you could sign Tomlinson for $7-8 million a year, which is probably more than the Joneses are interested in investing in that position. But I think, like you said, the thing with DeMarcus Lawrence is, with the defensive tackles that the Cowboys have had through his tenure, the quarterbacks just have as much room as they want to step up most of the time. Mm-hmm. So when he's rushing off the edge, he's using his cross chop to get home. The quarterback steps up 4 steps because there's no penetration from the pocket. There's space because the guys are either on the ground or sideways, and then Russell Wilson rushes up the middle for 25 yards. Right. So if you can have a guy that can clog up the middle of that line on pass rush reps, if he can push a center or a guard back into the pocket, DeMarcus Lawrence's sacks would go up by 20% just based on the quarterback not having a free runway in the middle of the pocket to run out of every single time that he drops back to pass. So I'm with you. I think Tomlinson's probably the number one option if they look for that, bigger body in the middle of that defense. But if not, like I said, Shelby Harris probably going to be a little bit cheaper than Sheldon Rankins, but both of those guys could be quality pass rushers for you as well.
Yeah, I'm feeling you with that, man. And I agree with you with the DeMarcus Lawrence thing that if you don't have that guy that can push that pocket, like you said, the quarterback can step right into the pocket, because we've seen how many times even this year, how many times DeMarcus Lawrence was right there about to make the sack. Yep. He just steps right up, gets the pass off because there's no pressure up in the middle of the pocket. He's able to stay, quarterback's feeling good. The worst, to me, pressure a quarterback gets is up in the middle. He doesn't want that pressure up the middle because he can't step into his throws. He can't make plays. And then the outside defensive ends can collapse on him. So you really want that push up the middle. So I totally agree with you on that. Now, I got a quick question. We might be over the place, but I want to get the questions from the people, big dog. My guy, Jay Tuck, Cowboys family. What's up with you, baby? He says, curious on Connor's thoughts on Marvin Wilson, from FSU. He seems to be maybe the top guy out there, even though he's not a first rounder. He seems to be maybe the consistent right now. I don't know. What's your thoughts about Marvin Wilson and what he could add to the Cowboys if they drafted him?
I like Wilson. Him and Barrymore from Alabama are going to be the 2 running mates for probably that top defensive tackle spot. Mm-hmm. Wilson's more of your one technique body size. He does offer a little bit as a pass rusher more than what your normal nose tackle would be. I'm interested to really dive into his tape a little bit more. I only have 2 or 3 games of his right now. But I like Wilson. I think he could be, again, I'm not obviously not drafting him in the top 5. He's more of a, and again, like from where I'm at from seeing those 2 to 3 games of Wilson, like I want to see him test because he's supposed to be a really good athlete for his size. I think he's probably more of like a 3rd round guy right now. He might be a middle to late 2.
Yep.
So again, if you trade back and pick up a mid-second round pick and you want to get a guy like Wilson, I'm all on board for that.
Right.
If you want to, move back in the second, whatever. I just don't think he's a guy that you would want to consider with that top 5 pick or that, top 30 pick or whatever it ends up being in the second round there. So I like Wilson. I do. I think he's a disruptive one technique that could probably play some 3-4 years well as that bigger body under tackle. But I think he's got a lot to prove with the combine. He's got to prove that he's this athlete that everybody makes him out to be. And then I think he's got, again, his tape last year was fantastic. He was kind of slotted into being a top 10, 15 draft pick with his tape last year. So he's got to kind of follow up with some impressive numbers to get back in that, conversation.
Okay. Well, I seen a few games of him as well. And like you said, I seen a lot of projections and they were hitting him in the 3rd round. If the Cowboys could get something like that, he's still around and he could get drafted around there. I feel really good. He's 6'5", 320 pounds.
Yeah,
I like that.
Dude.
He's a big dude, and we need some of that size and space in that middle.
He can move too, though, which is nice.
I'm interested to see how he tests as well, like in the combine and things of that nature, and see how he looks. Because I think if he continues to be solid and he has a good combine, that's probably going to push him up a little bit more as well. Yeah. Now I got my guy, the lunatic. He asked, "Who does he have at the?" This is for you, Connor. Says, "Who do you have as your top cornerbacks, and will they be available 9 through 13?"
So I obviously haven't done like my official grades yet. Right now I'm in the point where I start stacking guys around. I'll have finalized grades done after the combine when I get the numbers and everything like that. But my top cornerback, with the way I have them stacked right now, which isn't, they're not even graded yet, but the way I kind of have them stacked is I have Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech, and then we talk about the tags touching, so pretty much the same exact player is the Alabama cornerback Patrick Surtain. And then right below them is Marvin Wilson's teammate, Asante Samuel Jr. out of Florida State. He is a nickel cornerback. He's a shorter, undersized guy. Doesn't always play nickel for Florida State. He does play on the outside some too, but he's going to be a nickel in the NFL because of his lack of height. He's only 5'8", 5'9", so shorter guy. But that dude's a baller. I think if he was 2-3 inches taller, he'd be being talked about as the best cornerback in this class. If they'll be around in the night, I think there's a really good chance that Surtain, Farley, obviously Samuel, who I think is a back end of the 1st round, early 2nd round guy. I think all those guys have a really good shot to be available 9 through 12. I think with
should they go that high though, Connor? With the corner
at 4, or if they
let's say if they trade back and let's say they're in that middle of the pack of, let's say, 1st round or something, should they go after a cornerback there early?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Caleb Farley. Again, he didn't play this year. He's been injured, so there isn't a ton of tape on him. But the tape that's out there is really impressive. And a lot of people say that they don't like his tape, that he's more of a traitsy, upside guy. I like the kid's tape. I mean, he shows excellent ball skills. He can play zone. He can play man. He's physical at the line of scrimmage. He's very good in his transitions with his footwork. Uses his hands well in press. I mean, again, his ball skills are Trayvon Diggs. Like he tracks the ball extremely well. He's super athletic, 6'2". He's long. He's physical. He's got the size. You just haven't seen it play a whole lot because he's been injured and then he opted out this year. So that's the biggest thing is with Surtain, the corner from Alabama. He's not as athletic. He's not going to have that, elite speed, the elite athleticism. He's big and physical like Farley is, but his tape's consistent. Surtain really reminds me a little bit of what I thought of Marlon Humphrey coming out of Alabama a few years ago, where he doesn't wow you in any one area. He's the ball skills are okay. He's good in press. He's good in coverage. He's okay against the run. Like, he doesn't wow you in any one area, like, you know, your Denzel Wards or your Jalen Ramseys did, but he's just solid. And I think that's what Marlon Humphrey was coming out of Alabama a few years ago.
Right.
So, you know, I like both of those guys a lot. I would really, you know, I would consider taking either one of those guys at 4 or 5. If they get stuck there, they can't move back. You know, I think that's almost what
you want to go corner that high?
I do, yeah. I mean, I wish there was a Jalen Ramsey or a Denzel Ward in this class that you like knew was just going to be a dog. And obviously, it's just not the class doesn't work that way this year. There's not a top corner, there's not a top defensive tackle, there's not a top edge rusher, and those are probably the 3 positions you'd like to use that pick on.
Right.
So it's a tough year to be drafting in the top 5, unless you need a quarterback or a wide receiver, and those are 2 positions we don't think this team's going to need, or an offensive tackle. There's 2 really good offensive tackles. So if you're a defensive needy team, you want to trade back as much as possible and pick up as many picks and draft, you know, Caleb Farley at 9 or Caleb Farley at 10, and then, you know, have ammunition to get your Marvin Wilsons later in the second, and your Nick Boltons in the second. I mean, again, there's a lot of guys that like defensively, but there's just not any studs that are going to go, you know, that should really go in the top 3 to 4 picks.
Okay. Now, also, when you're talking about those picks, and, you know, you got Caleb Farley, which I've seen a little bit of his tape. I love his size. What do you think about, like, some people have talked about J.C. Horn? Is he anybody that's on your radar?
I love J.C. Horn too. He's gonna be right there with Asante Samuel for me. I like Asante Samuel's game a little bit more than J.C. Horn's right now because it's a little bit more cleaned up. He's a little bit more technically refined than I'll say a guy like J.C. Horn is. But I mean, again, you watch, you know, 2 or 3 minutes of J.C. Horn tape, you're gonna fall in love because the dude's big, he's physical, he's nasty, he's almost a little too nasty. You know, he's gonna get.
I like nasty.
Right, yeah. He's going to get flagged a ton, you know.
Is he real handsy and grabby?
I mean, again, he'll mug you, and the way I described him to somebody on Twitter the other day is he will mug you, he'll get a flag, and then he'll probably turn around and spit in that guy's face after. So, like, I like that because, like, the dude's a dog. Like, you need that. But again, you know, like, the coverage is good. It's just almost too good. Like, he is too physical. So he's probably going to have to – and I'd always like to, tune that down and tune that up. So I like that about him. You know, I think if you do get in a trade back scenario where you trade back maybe, you know, 13, 14 instead of, you know, 8, 9, that could be a guy you look for in that, you know, little bit later slot in that first round. But he is a ton of fun to watch. He is super aggressive, super physical against the run and the pass. Good in coverage. He's just going to have to learn to not be so physical.
Okay. So do you think in this draft, let's say we get, you know, let's say 10, 11, 12 picks, let's say something like that. Do you think the Cowboys would get like a couple of corners in this draft? Or, you know, what's up with this Reggie Robinson thing? Because let's say, like, they jumped out and got a Farley, right? So where does that put, like, a Reggie Robinson, since we haven't seen him and they were high on him? Where does that put him? Are they going to stay with that thing at safety? Because he couldn't even get on the field for special teams, and you're going to safety? Dog, that's really complicated. Like, what's going on with this Reggie Robinson thing? Do you know anything about that? Because if you draft another corner, what is that saying what you're going to do with Reggie Robinson since y'all was so high on him this year?
I mean, I think that whoever made that transition to move him to safety's got to be dead set on it because we're running out Chris Westry and Rashawn Robinson and DeAndre Burton.
Right.
And again,
like, never heard of.
Right. So, like, obviously somebody is like, and again, that dude can play corner. Like,
I know, dog. He was fit. That's why I'm tripping off of it, Connor, because when I seen his tape, I'm like, he's what you want. Like, he tall, he long, he physical as shit. He's physical as hell. And he gets after you, and he's got pretty good speed. It's like, I can see why you want the traits because of the length and things of that nature. But damn, I liked him at corner. Like, why are we switching him there?
Yep. And the only thing I can think of is they made that transition in camp because – you know, I say camp, but virtual camp, whatever you want to call it. But they probably made that transition because of the amount of corners they had going into the year with Cheeto, Jordan, Anthony Brown, Trayvon Diggs. Maurice Kennedy, they had 5, 6, 7 guys who like had a chance to make the roster. So they're probably like, let's move the guy to safety where you only had Xavier Woods,
right.
Probably realized Clinton Dix wasn't going to cut it. So it was Xavier Woods, Donovan Wilson, Darian Thompson, and that's pretty much it. So they were at a spot where they had more room at safety. And I had Reggie on my podcast right before the start of the season,
nice.
right after he was drafted. And you could tell, like, he didn't want to give anything away, but you could tell that they had started the process of, hey, we're looking at moving you to safety before camp even started. So they were kind of eyeing that before things really got rolling. So I think it was a numbers issue with them where they liked the traits. They saw the kid that could play, so they said, let's find a play to get him on the field. But I mean, even then, they have ways to get him on the field now. So I don't know if he's just not showing it in practices or what.
Right. That's just wild to me.
I just don't trust them with that. Like that's the most obvious choice. But like, it took them how many weeks to take Terrence Steele off the field and put Zach Martin at right tackle. Like they told us Connor McGovern couldn't play. They told us Tyler Biotish couldn't play, and all those guys are performing well. So
see, and that's where I'm at, Connor, because I don't trust them. Because see, y'all, they're coming out saying, well, Mike Nolan, when everybody was clamoring for Donovan Wilson, because I've been clamoring for him since last year, and they were like, well, there's people that back up for reasons. Then this dude comes on the field and goes ape nuts. You know what I'm saying? And then you've been sitting out Connor McGovern, which really pissed me off because I've been on that train since last year too. And y'all pissed me off, making it look like he was a straight bum. He comes in and been hoping, and Biotish hoping. Terrence Steele, okay, I know he got a little bit better, but come on, y'all, we saw this, and then and I know Brandon Knight has struggled since he's come back from injury, but he was playing pretty well before Steele was, and you had him at guard in camp, and he was a tackle. You get what I'm saying? So when I see all of them moves like that, I'm like, okay, y'all suspect in my opinion now. So now when y'all talk about another player like he ain't ready, I kind of don't want to believe you now because you said that about some other players and they was ready.
Yep.
So there's some misevaluations going on, and it's hard for me to trust, even with Bradley and Nye now. I heard Mike Nolan and them saying, well, Bradley and Nye, he done everything we wanted, but it's just been numbers. What?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, again, like, I'm only going to listen to so much of, like, Dorrance.
Mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, Dorrance Armstrong's, one of our best players on defense when I watch the games and watch the tape every week and don't see him do anything productive. So, I mean, again, I don't think he's terrible by any means, but, like,
stop hyping this man like he's the guy, and he's not.
Right. And again, I don't know. It's been a common theme with them. We've seen it. Multiple positions, multiple, different players where they tell us such and such isn't ready, such and such, has room to grow, needs to get better, needs to develop. And then
he breathes his ass right in and starts killing it.
Yeah. Or they go play for another team and they're one of the team's best, best players. So.
Right. I mean, who do you think that falls on, Connor?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's a front office thing where you got Steven and Jerry watching all these practices and going, it just there's no sense to it because, like, Terrence Steele's an undrafted free agent. Brandon Knight's an undrafted free agent. So there shouldn't be any bias there on who you play.
Exactly.
And that's what's weird about, like, the Reggie Robinson and Bradley Knight thing because they're draft picks. So you think if there was bias, it would be let's get the guys we drafted on the field so it makes us look smarter.
Exactly. Not the Rashawn Robinsons and the Deontay Burtons and the Savion Smiths. These guys ain't going to be on your team in the long haul. You drafted Reggie Robinson. We're high on him. What are you hurting, especially if you're playing corner? Y'all play some zone. If y'all playing cover 2 or cover 3, don't tell me he can't sit in that zone and make some tackles. Don't tell me he can't do that. So that's just really wild to me that he's still sitting there, and it's got me frustrated because, like you said, it's misevaluations in my opinion. I feel like it's hurting the team right now because you got players that you said are good and they ain't. Then you got players you say ain't ready and they are good. So that's kind of confusing to me. Let me ask you. I got some names I'm going to throw out to you, some defensive tackles. You tell me what you kind of think about them, okay?
All right.
These are some names that I saw. I think you mentioned Christian Barmore,
yeah.
Jordan Davis from Georgia.
Yeah, those are two kind of one technique nose tackle guys. Barrymore's got some pass rush ability. Jordan Davis does not, but he's your big guy in the middle that's going to eat up run. He's going to eat up blockers. He's going to be strong at the point of attack. So both of those guys are two more one technique nose tackles.
Okay. And now I got another question. My people's just throwing them questions for you, Connor. So we're gonna get them questions in here. They like you up in here, man. This my guy, the lunatic, comes in with the question, Connor. He says, how many of our picks should be on the defense? We got 9 so far, I think. How many do you think this should be one of those where we really dedicate hard, like maybe when Parcells was here, when he went 8 nuts on the draft and went defense? Should it be that type of thing, you think, this year?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you saw the Panthers do it last year. They used every pick on defense. I think that could really be a scenario where you maybe not use everyone. Maybe you draft an offensive tackle somewhere if you have one fall to you in the top 100, or you look at maybe a guard or something like that. But I mean, I would try to use 80 to 90% of your picks on defense. I mean, you're more than likely losing Cheeto, Jordan Lewis. So you're losing 2 starters in the secondary. Xavier Woods is more than likely gone, so you're losing 3 starters in the secondary. I don't have a good feeling about Alden Smith coming back, so you're going to need another edge rusher. So you're going to need multiple corners, a safety, a pass rusher. You need to upgrade your defensive tackles. You possibly need to upgrade your linebackers. So, yeah. You got a lot of work to do on the defensive side of the ball.
Damn, boy. You talking like we need a whole new squad, dog. Like, it feels like that on this defense, man. For real. So linebackers, you threw out them linebackers. Some people threw out Parsons. If he's still there and they couldn't trade out or nothing and that was the pick, would you touch him? I gotta ask you. Everybody talk about it.
Well, here's the thing: is people are going to say you shouldn't draft an off-the-ball linebacker that high, and I agree with them. You shouldn't, because the Fred Warners of the world you can draft in the 2nd, 3rd round and get really, really good players. The off-the-ball linebacker it's kind of the running back of the defense. If the defensive tackles aren't doing their job, they're going to struggle. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing now with Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch, 2 guys who were drafted relatively high. They're struggling to perform because they're dealing with offensive linemen in their lap. And I think, what Micah Parsons brings that those guys don't is he was a pass rusher in high school. He was an edge rusher in high school that came to Penn State and transitioned to linebacker. If you could draft Micah Parsons and have him play a multiple role on your team where he does rush, I don't want to compare him to Vic Beasley, but Vic Beasley kind of did that for a while, where he played some off-the-ball linebacker. He put his hand on the ground and rushed the passer on 3rd downs. I don't love it, but I think if you could do it in that role where you do have him spend, let's say, 30% of his snaps rushing the passer, you could make the point to where you could make it worth it. Because if he's just playing, Sam or Will linebacker or middle linebacker, and he's running and chasing sideline to sideline, it's just not worth it to spend a top 5 pick on that guy. I mean, other than Luke Kuechly, a lot of the best linebackers in the league for however many years weren't drafted in the 1st round, much less the top 5 or 10. So,
well, that's a good one right there. I got another question from my guy, the lunatic. You got to get ready, my guy. He go hard in the paint with these questions, big dog. But I got the lunatic, and he says, and it's for both of us. He says, question, of the 3, which would you prefer if they came back on the cheap? Cheeto, J. Lou, or Xavier Woods?
That's a good question.
That's a tough one, because damn sure ain't gonna be no Xavier Woods. He out the question. I don't want no damn Xavier. But J. Lou and Cheeto, that's a tough one, because we were talking about J. Lou. I mean, damn, we was looking at him like, let him play some free safety. That man can tackle. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's physical. I know he ain't the biggest dude, but he always was a good tackler. He has great awareness, and he has good ball skills. And especially if you keep things in front of him, he can make plays on the ball. Where Cheeto, he's not that guy. He ain't getting interceptions. I don't care. He plays really sticky in coverage, but he's just not going to be that ball hawk. It's tough. I'm going to say, by the slim of the margins, me, Cheeto. Slim. What about you?
Man, I mean, I think I hate to sit on the fence, but I feel like they're the same player in a different role. I might go Jordan Lewis just because I don't love the nickel options in the draft. And I think Jordan Lewis has played pretty well for you down the stretch here. He stayed healthier than what Cheeto's been able to do over the last few years.
Yeah.
And I feel like, let's just say the team knows that they're going to have to go corner in that first round. Caleb Farley, Patrick Surtain, and J.C. Horn are probably going to be their three options, and all three of those guys are going to be boundary corners. So if you're looking for the future, you might go, Cheeto, Jordan Lewis, they're the same player. What's going to be the deciding factor? The deciding factor might be we don't feel good about our nickel options in the first 2 or 3 rounds of this draft. So let's, bring back the nickel guy and then build from the outside in.
Well, I like that. I got another question right here. It's from Andrew DeCal. And I know we kind of talked about this. He says, Connor, what's up? And he says, OG, I'm the OG. I'm old school up in this piece. You know what I'm saying? I'm old, y'all young as hell. He says, hey, Connor, who are a couple third-round DB prospects that the Cowboys can grab in that round?
That's a good question. I'm interested to see where Asante Samuel goes because I think he should go like in the top of the second. I'm interested to see where Shaun Wade goes, the Ohio State corner.
Yeah.
I think he's going to go.
You think that'd be a good pick for us in the later round?
I mean, I think he'll go. I don't know when their third-round pick is, but I think he's probably like a top 60 guy. He moved from the slot to boundary corner this year and has struggled a lot. Going into this year, he was like one of the top-rated cornerbacks in the country.
Right.
I really like Chase Lucas out of Arizona State. He's a long, physical guy, can play off, can play man, can press you at the line of scrimmage. He's got good ball skills. He's a guy I really like because he's very technically refined. His footwork's good. He's a clean tackler. He's physical. I like a lot of the things that Chase Lucas brings to the table. You might be able to get him in the 4th. So I know he asked for third-round guys. I think Chase Lucas is a guy that I'm going to have around where they're going to be picking in the 3rd round, and a guy that I would like. And then the other guy that I'll mention is Paulson Adebo, the Stanford cornerback. He was supposed to come out last year, but he went back to school. And again, I think that probably wasn't a great decision from him because he was probably looked at like a top 50 guy last year. And then he went back to school and he's probably like a top 100 guy this year. So those are a few guys that I like. I like Chase Lucas a lot. He's not going to be super high on a lot of people's boards, but I think he's a guy that he'll fly under the radar. He'll get drafted, 3rd, 4th round, and he'll be starting in the league for somebody making plays, and people will be wondering how he lasted so long.
Boy, I tell you what, I'm gonna rewind this shit my damn self and be going over these damn names. I'm gonna be like, okay, rewind. What's that damn name again? Okay, let me go back. Hey, y'all better be getting them damn likes up in here, man. Connor spitting that fire, dog. He's spitting yoga flame up in here, y'all. He getting names up in here, man. I appreciate you, big dog. Give me some defensive tackles, man. I think I mentioned a couple. What's some defensive tackles in this draft besides the Marvin Wilson? You mentioned the Christian Barrymore, and then we talked about the Jordan Davis. What's some other defensive tackles that maybe not early? We know we don't want to hit them early, but maybe like a 4th or 5th round that might be sneaky to you that could help Dallas in the long run.
Alim McNeil is a junior out of NC State. He hasn't declared yet, so it's still up in the air if he's going to go back to school, if he's going to come back. If he declares, he's a guy probably more of a 2nd or 3rd round guy than a 4th or 5th round guy. But he's a lot of fun. He brings pass rush ability. He's a big body. He can move. And again, this defensive tackle class is not good. So a guy like Alim McNeil, who has good tape, he is supposed to test really well, has been very good out of NC State. I think he could be a good one. Jalen Twyman, he's a guy out of Pittsburgh that I like quite a bit too. He looks a little bit like Aaron Donald. He's 6'1", 290 pounds. Doesn't play like Aaron Donald, but he kind of looks like him when you watch him play.
Yeah, I'm playing like him.
Yeah, and nobody, you're exactly right about that. No, not a whole lot of people are playing like him, but those are a few guys that I like. And then the Stills brothers out of West Virginia, they have some good tape as well. Both guys are kind of under tackles, pass rushers. Not going to do a whole lot for you is those big space eaters, but they will get after the passer. Tyler Shelvin is a big dude out of LSU.
Yeah, I've seen him. Mm-hmm.
Don't love his tape because he is literally like 365 pounds. So he just doesn't offer a lot as a, disruptor. But he will get in the way. He'll hold up blocks and he'll make some tackles at the line of scrimmage. You just can't expect a whole lot behind the line of scrimmage as far as sacks or tackles for loss, but he can be a space eater for you. He'll probably go in that 4th round range because of the lack of ability to get after the passer. But those are a few guys. And again, this defensive tackle class is not great. So,
right. Man, well, my thing is, do you want more of a pass rushing D tackle, or do you want more of a space eater?
I like both, but
I know we had both. But if you had one guy that was more, okay, this is a guy that we're going to kind of go after, would you want more the guy that's going to stuff that run and keep your linebackers clean, or that guy's just really going to just push that pocket and get after that quarterback?
Man, see, that's why I want to go. That's why I want to go after a guy like Dalvin Tomlinson who can do both. He can be that.
Right.
Both,
Right.
I just don't know if you got that guy in this draft. Christian Barrymore might. Marvin Wilson can be. Those are the 2 top defensive tackles in my opinion. Those guys can be the guys that can do that. But I think if you want to go for let's go and upgrade this damn defense.
Right.
Dalvin Tomlinson is the guy to do that. I mean, he's the guy that you can plug in at the nose. He'll give you some pass rush upgrade. He'll definitely give you some run defense upgrade, and he just makes everybody around you better. So that's what I would do, and then use the draft, because to get a more of a pass rushing 3 technique, you can bulk Gallimore up, have him play as your swing guy at nose tackle. Tristan Hill and a rookie can be your under tackles. Gallimore can move around a little bit. And I think that would be the best way to go.
Yeah, I like that. And I think Tristan Hill, I think he can really add pass rushing ability at that 3 tech position. I don't think he's that guy that's really going to stuff that run, but I think he's a guy that can get after that quarterback. He had a couple would-be sacks before he got hurt. So I think that's what he can really offer. I think we just, like you said, I'm feeling I'm feeling that Giants pick right there. The only thing I'm concerned about is, Dallas and Stephen Jones always waits to the 3rd level of free agency. Somebody like that may be gone before then, and that's what I kind of get paranoid about, that Stephen's going to sit on his ass and wait and see, and then that slim pickings, and then you're going to pick up somebody. We're like, man, who the hell is this dude? You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody thinking about this guy. We need somebody. We need a difference maker on this front. Now, safety position. I'm not going to go super hard on it because, a lot of people said the safety position is not great this year in the draft. Not at all. Do you think we should hit the free agency route on the safety tip, or do you think that we should, develop a Reggie Robinson, or maybe look later on in the draft? What's your kind of thoughts on that safety position for us? Because I feel like Donovan Wilson I know the jury's still out because we only seen a half a sample, but to me, he was a dog. He was a dog, and I was just ready to see. And he's a more of an enforcer type, and I think he'll bulk up a little more, get even stronger. I think we have that strong safety. What do you think we should do at that free safety position?
I love Trayvon Moehrig from TCU. He's my top stacked safety right now. He is a ton of fun. He's good in coverage. He's got good range. Devon Holland's interesting out of Oregon because he's big. He's athletic. He's more of a nickel. He kind of, again, don't take this what I'm about to say, but he's more of your Jamal Adams guy who kind of is going to play like some linebacker. He's going to cover out of the slot. Mm-hmm. He's not really your free or your strong. He's kind of like a chess piece. Paris Ford, he's a more of a free safety role out of Pittsburgh too. So those are the 3 guys that I have an eye on. A little bit later, Andre Cisco out of Syracuse. I think he's more of your free safety too. And there's a few guys that I like later as well. The 2 TCU guys are Darius Washington and Trayvon Moehrig are a lot of fun. Washington's more of your strong safety kind of guy. But if you could find a way to come out with, both of those guys, like if you could draft the Trayvon Moring in the second, third round, whatever it ends up being, trade back in the second, and then grab that Washington, Ardarius Washington, and let's say the fifth round, something like that. I don't know when he's going to end up going. I haven't dived into his tape as much. That'd be huge. I think you could pair two guys who've been playing beside each other. They have good ball skills. They're physical guys. They're good in coverage, and I think that would be a good making to start building that safety position up.
Yeah, I feel you. Now, would you touch free agency, or would you go strictly with the draft with this Fred? Because this is what I feel, Connor. I hear what you're saying about that, but I'm gonna keep it real. I'm a little more impatient on this tip with the safety position. That's great going in college, but I'm not trying to wait another year or two to see if this guy is there. Justin Simmons has been mentioned out there. I know he probably might cost a lot of money. There have been some other safeties that are getting to come up. Do you think that we should touch free agency and go after a dog like that who's only like a 25-year-old? Do you think we should hit that and then get one of those guys to develop so we can come in there and say, we're ready right now? Or do you want to get a guy you're going to develop?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing with free agency and safeties, and again, I haven't spent a ton of time looking at the safeties and free agency, but I know, Malik Hooker's a free agent, a guy who's been with the Colts. He's been injured a whole bunch. Again, tape was good coming out of college, and I think he can play, but he's just never been able to stay healthy. So that's not, unless you're signing, a super cheap deal, like sure, but Justin Simmons is kind of more of your in-the-box, strong safety guy. Can play a little bit of coverage, can play with some range, but I don't know. I don't know if there's that guy in free agency this year either where you're like, man, this is going to be a sure thing. And if there was, then I'd be more than willing to do that. I just think that, my guy Trayvon at TCU, I think that he would be a really good fit beside Donovan Wilson. It would allow Wilson to play in the box, that strong safety, and then allow Trayvon to be your free safety. He'd be able to cover. He's got really good ball skills. He's pretty good against the run too. I think he's a guy who's going to be a little bit underrated too. Get drafted, late in the second round, something like that, mid-second round, and then he'll be making plays in the league for a while. And I hope that the Cowboys are the ones that are seeing that happen.
What's his measurables?
Let's see what I got in my notes, which again, these are all from college. So he's 6'1", 208 is what I have in my notes. So again, good size. You just love the coverage ability. You love the range. You love the ball skills. He's a guy who goes and gets the football, and he covers really well too. So that, that's the most important thing in today's NFL is, can you cover? We like Donovan Wilson, his ability to come up and make plays, but when you get him singled in coverage, he's not as good.
Right.
So you want that guy that, you can let roam free, make plays sideline to sideline, play the ball, but put a guy like Trayvon Moring, in coverage, is that deep center field guy, and he can, go get the ball. He can cover guys out of the slot down the field, and you won't see these big coverage busts anymore because he's a smart, intelligent guy that can, play the deep third and not make mistakes back there.
Yeah, man, I'm just tired of seeing these damn same mistakes week in and week out. You know what I'm saying? It's so damn frustrating, because we've lost games this year that we should have won even with these damn injuries, and it's just frustrating because you're looking at it like there's about 3 or 4 games that we should have won, even with as bad as this injury history has been. So it's not like we're a terrible team. You know what I mean?
I agree.
That's a frustrating part. Give me a player that is like super under your radar. Like, ain't nobody really talking about this dude, but if Dallas get him, well, I'll be feeling good. You have anybody out there right now that you're saying, nobody talking about him, but I like him?
I got 2, and I think that they're gonna get there. I'm not gonna say that nobody knows who they are, but Nick Bolton out of Missouri is a linebacker that I like a lot. I've seen him. Undersized, he's small, but that dude is a freaking bottle of lightning.
Oh, he be eating like them monster drinks. Like before he do anything, that boy be going ham on the field. I like him too.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. He's a guy that I think, if he's there in the second round, if you want to take him at the top of the second round, or if you do trade back and get a mid-second round pick and he's around, I would like that a lot. And then I'll say my second guy again. I'm not going to say that he's, super underrated. But Patrick Jones out of Pittsburgh, edge rusher out of Pittsburgh, he's a lot of fun too. I think he's a guy that you'll see really pick up steam as this process goes on. He lines up on the weak side a lot of the time. He's got speed. He's got a great get off. Still kind of learning how to use his hands a little bit, but he does have some pass rush moves. He's got a spin move. He does use a cross chop here and there. But he is a traitsy guy who has some speed off the edge. His first step and his explosiveness off the edge is nice out of Pittsburgh, and he's a guy who's put up a lot of production. Like the way he plays. He plays with tremendous effort, and he could be a good one too if you do go. If you want to look at edge rushers on day 2, I think he's a guy who's going to go possibly at the end of round 1, but he should be available for you at the top of the second round.
Okay, so if you're talking the draft right now, you would go corner first. What would be your top 5 picks on defense as far as positions if you're drafting them?
Am I taking into account the players in this draft, or okay? Just how
if Connor was running this shit right now, what would Connor do?
Trade back. I'd trade. I'd get on the phone with Carolina or Atlanta or someone between that 7 to 12 range. I'd trade back. I'd pick up some picks, but I'd want to go corner first because your corners, again, Trayvon Diggs had a pretty solid rookie year, but there was a lot of issues there early with him too. And he's coming off an injury. Hopefully he plays this week and he's able to.
Do you want him to play this week?
I do, just because
I'm a little nervous.
I think he needs it. If he's
he
healthy,
definitely needs it, but I'm worried about that damn foot.
Yeah, I mean, if he's healthy and the foot's 100%, I obviously want him to play. I thought you were asking from like a team tank perspective. Like,
hell no. No. Play. I want them to play, but you know what? I just, I know he don't got like the Jones foot injury, and it's not like a major foot injury or anything like that. So maybe I'm just being scary right now.
My if you gave me the keys and said run this whole thing for us this offseason,
you got the damn keys, right? Hold on. You got the mother son keys right now. Kind of run this shit. Tell me what you're doing.
I'm extending Dak Prescott. I'm lowering making sure I give him a deal that I can keep that cap hit somewhat reasonable this year. I'm paying Dalvin Tomlinson pretty much, not whatever he wants, but I'm gonna give him a good deal to come here. I'm gonna pry him away from everybody else.
All right.
I'm gonna draft Caleb Farley or Patrick Surtain in the first round. After I traded back, I'm gonna draft Nick Bolton with my first second round pick. So I upgraded my linebacker core. I'm going to draft Trayvon Moehrig with my second round pick that I traded back with. So I just upgraded at safety. And I'm going to use my third round pick on an edge rusher, either Patrick Jones. I'm trying to think who else Jason Owe from Penn State. Jalen Phillips is starting to hit the hype train, so he probably won't be there. So I'm going to grab one of those, tier rush, edge rushers that's going to go day 2 in that third round, and I'm feeling a lot better about my defense with Dalvin Tomlinson. Obviously we're hoping Randy Gregory's going to come back. We got better at linebacker, we got better at safety, and we feel a lot better about our safety room too. So
Connor for GM. Connor for GM. I'm gonna call Steven and be like, hey Steven, come on, dog. I got my guy Connor was just on here last night, dog. He got the formula. Go holler at him, man. Put him on the payroll, man, because I like what he's talking about. I
really hurt my own feelings the other day. I was going back looking through some of my tweets on draft night, and when they picked, Taco Charlton, I tweeted, this needs to be Budda Baker, TJ Watt, which I mean, probably even including Budda Baker in that conversation was silly now, knowing what we know about TJ Watt. But again, Budda Baker's been great for Arizona. He's probably one of the better safeties in the league. And then when we pick Leighton Vander Esch, I wanted Calvin Ridley or Jair Alexander. Calvin Ridley, a star in Atlanta, and Jair Alexander is one of the best corners in the league.
Right.
Tristan Hill, it was Juan Thornhill, Taylor Rapp, and DK Metcalf. And I was like, man, if this team would have just let me draft for him the last few years, we'd be playing in some,
No, we might be in the Super Bowl listening to your ass. I'm telling you, man. But you know what? Let's just go ahead and fire Steven. I'm gonna put you in front office, and then we got it. You know what I'm saying? But just be cool though, because I'll put your ass in that front office. Be fair for that fire that's coming on your ass when you mess up.
Sounds good.
You feel me? For real, for real. Now a couple of people have been asking about. When we're talking about the offensive line, I want to ask you because we got that quandrum. I talked to my guy Mike White. You know, he said they're feeling good about Collins coming back. The iffy is still Tyron Smith. What is really going to happen with this left guard position? Connor Williams is having a career year. We've seen Connor McGovern is very good. Well, he's not. I'm not going to say he's very good, but I feel like he showed that he's good. You got Zach Morton come back, and he played tackle in college. Okay. What do you think is going to happen with this line? Is Connor Williams going to stay at that left guard? Is he?
According to what a lot of people are saying and rumoring, it sounds like they're already kind of transitioning to get him away from left guard, which I don't agree with. He's been, good at left guard.
You want to put Connor McGovern there?
That's what it sounds like they wanted. But actually, so what I keep hearing is that they're taking Connor Williams out. They're putting Joe Looney at guard right now.
Yeah, I've seen that. They were practicing with him at guard, right.
So, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because I don't think Joe Looney's great by any means.
Right.
And he's probably not going to be here next year. But, I don't, in my opinion, I think Tyron Smith's fine. I know what you said that Collins was supposed to come back and Tyron was questionable, but I'm probably going to flip those two. I think Tyron's shown that he's able to come. I mean, again, he's been injured, but he comes back every year. And I know he continues to get injured, but he comes back. And when he's playing, he's really good. We've never seen La'el Collins work back from an injury. And the bad thing is that injury happened because he was out of shape and not ready for football. So he didn't handle the offseason well when somebody wasn't on him consistently. He got out of shape. He got overweight. He came into camp, practiced twice, and got hurt. So I'm more worried about Collins than I am Smith because Smith is a professional. He knows what it takes to work back from injury. And then, I think he'll come back. But, say everything comes back great. Say, Tyron Smith comes back, he's your left tackle. Say La'el Collins comes back healthy, he's your right tackle. I think Tyler Biotish is going to be your center. I think you're going to have Zach Martin at right tackle. And then I think you're going to have a situation where Connor Williams and Connor McGovern are going to battle it out for left guard. And I think whoever wins that matchup, you're going to be just fine. And you shouldn't have any issues with it. So I just think the offensive line is going to be back to, I'm not going to say it's be back to normal in 2021, but it's going to be,
I think it's going to be a good offensive line next year.
Much better than it was this year. So
because a lot of guys got some valuable experience. As much as I hated it to see it this year, I was happy to see you got a Connor McGovern on the field. You got to find out about Terrence Steele and a Brandon Knight. So at least you may have two potential backup swing tackles for your future, and they're young and they're cheap. And they got some good valuable experience. You found out your center in Biotish. Like I said, you could probably bring Joe Looney back on another 1-year deal if you wanted. I don't know. But you did see a lot of good improvements, so you can mix and match things going into next year. Would you think they would dangle an offensive lineman as trade?
I wouldn't think so, just because of what they saw happen this year. With so many people getting injured, and I mean, again, I'm not saying they won't, but I think it'd be a bad thing to do after what they saw this year with Smith go down, Martin go down, Collins go down, Looney get injured, Biotish get injured. You can never have too many offensive linemen. I think unless you're getting, something premium for a Connor Williams or Connor McGovern, you're going to have top 50 pick or a starting defender. That's different. But if you're just, trading one of the Connors for a 6th-round pick, then no, I'd hang on to him and make sure that offensive line continues to stay a strong unit and can stay healthy and have depth to it, even if it doesn't stay healthy.
Okay, and I'm going to give you one last question before we get up out of here. Michael Gallup. This year has been, I had brought up some things, would you do this, would you do that? Amari Cooper has been pretty damn good this year.
For sure.
And he's really, never hated on him. But he shut me up on some things. You know, people were, way he ain't this, and you know he don't play through injuries. But Cooper's been a beast this year, considering everything that's going through, and he looks healthy. You seen CeeDee Lamb. Now I threw it out there a couple of weeks ago, Connor. Michael Gallup's coming into his last year. He gonna want money. He ain't gonna get that money, in my opinion, in Dallas. He gonna want money, and he gonna want more of a bigger role, and he's not gonna get that role now with CeeDee Lamb there. Would you think about straight up trading him, dangling him, looking for things before that contract come up, and then you just lose him for nothing? What would you do with Michael Gallup? Or would you re-sign him and bring him back on the team?
If you could, which I know this sounds crazy. I know this has been talked about more recently here in the last few days, but if you could trade Michael Gallup for a solid, because you're not going to trade Michael Gallup for Stephon Gilmore. That's just not realistic. You know, it's not going to happen. Right. If you could trade Michael Gallup for a solid starting corner, so, you know, a guy who's not going to be, you know, not going to be a star in the league. He's like fringe Pro Bowler, you know, which we know how we feel about the Pro Bowl, but let's just say you could trade Michael Gallup for a James Bradbury, a guy in New York who's played really well.
I feel great about that one.
But let's just say you do something like that, and that might even be too much. You know, that might be unrealistic too. But just someone like that. Let's just say someone like that.
Right.
Let's say you do that, and then you draft Devontae Smith with your first-round pick. I'd be willing to do that because you're not. That use of that first round pick isn't a luxury anymore. I mean, it still kind of is, but you're getting a dynamic to your offense that it doesn't have, and that is elite speed, elite athleticism, and a huge playmaker. So if you could get me a corner, like a solid starting level corner that's, you know, either on his rookie deal or early in a second contract, it's not going to cost me an arm and a leg. You know, he's going to be healthy. You know, he's going to be able to contribute. Then I can use my first round pick to replace Michael Gallup with a dynamic of that offense that it lacks. And then I can use the second on a safety or an edge rusher, and then a third on another corner. And then that's how I can build my secondary back. But I really like the idea of doing that if you can do it. And I think you would be able to. It's just, who do you go after?
So you feel you definitely open to that Michael Gallup thing.
Yeah, and again, like I like Michael Gallup a lot too, but
it's a business though.
Realistically, you're not going to, unless he's willing to take,
and he's not going to do that.
$8 million a year.
He's not going to do that.
Not going to happen. So,
right.
If you could, I mean, Devontae Smith is probably going to be my top-ranked wide receiver. I mean, he is just electric.
Yeah, he's been nasty. He was nasty last year.
He was the best Alabama receiver last year, and he's by far the best Alabama receiver this year. I think if you could add him to this offense with the way that Dak Prescott's been able to throw the deep ball, you would just be, I mean, again, we said that coming in this year, but you would just be unstoppable in offense. And then like I said, if you could get in my opinion, I like your James Bradbury at corner with Devontae Smith more than I like Michael Gallup at wide receiver and Caleb Farley at corner, because your rookie corners are rookie corners. They're going to need a year or two to develop. Your window isn't that big. If you do sign Dak Prescott to an extension, you have a 4-year window where you can go and try to win a Super Bowl. And then after that, he's going to get older. He's going to need a new deal. Your whole roster is going to change over. So as soon as that extension gets done, which let's hope that it does, you have a 2 to 3 to possibly 4-year window, and you need to go for it in that span.
And you need to go hard.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying, Connor? Like if they sign Dak, they got to go hard in the paint, because as you said, after 4 years, you're going to be basically almost, unless you keep building it, it's almost like one of them start over type things. You know what I mean? Because guys are older. You're not going to have them players. That's just what it is, man. So I totally agree with you with that, man. They got to get Dak Prescott back in there, because if they don't do that, man, bro, it's just, you know what I'm saying?
The way I described it to somebody the other day on Twitter is, if you don't extend Dak Prescott, and let's just say you draft one of these top, you're not going to get Trevor Lawrence, you're not going to get Justin Fields more than likely, so you're going to get the third or fourth best quarterback. You're significantly downgrading at quarterback for the next 2 years, more than likely the next 4 to 5 years, and your defense is going to be even worse than it was this year.
Yeah, man.
So I don't know in what world that makes sense to do, just because you'll save, $38 to $40 million that the Joneses have had in their back pocket since Dak's taken over, because he's been making peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't done anything with it. So,
Right.
you hear people all the time, the Joneses aren't able to win with a quarterback on a big deal, but they just had a really good quarterback on a small deal for the last 4 or 5 years, and they did absolutely nothing with all that money.
That's some smart shit right there, Connor. Say that shit again right there, dog. That was some real shit right there. I never thought about that. I'm definitely rewinding that part because I'm gonna say it again, and I'm gonna give you credit. I said Connor said this shit, and I'm saying it again. Okay, one last thing. I know I said one last thing before, but this is it. I sound like a preacher and a pastor. One last time. No, this is it. Blake Jarwin will be coming back next year. Dalton Schultz, I apologized to him earlier a couple days ago. I said I was sorry as hell, dog. I didn't mean to talk about shit about you like that. But are you satisfied with the tight end position going into next year, or would you still look at somebody, maybe a speed guy? Because I still would like some more speed out there at the tight end position. What's your thoughts? Are you like, no, I like Jarwin, I like Schultz, and let's kind of keep it at that and don't touch that position. Let's go somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm good with that position. If you want to bring back a guy like Blake Bell or something like that, to where it's a vet minimum deal where you come in, you be the third guy, that's fine. But I think Dalton Schultz has been one of the best receiving tight ends in the league this year. He's top 5 in receptions and yards. He's been really good, and Blake Jarwin, we think, can come back and be the guy that we thought he was going to be this year. So I think you're more than okay at the tight end position, and that's a position that I'm fine with whatever happens going into 2021.
Right.
I definitely don't want to spend a premium draft pick on it. I don't want to spend any money on it. So I'm more than okay with using the bottom bin barrel to add a tight end if you need to, or bringing back a guy like Blake Bell.
Okay. I like that. I still want to get a little bit of speed out there. I just do. I want some speed. Dalton, I like Dalton. But and even Jarwin, I don't think Jarwin is super fast. He's more like the gazelle. He got them long ass strides. I'd like to get a straight kind of burner out there. But we'll see about that. I got one last question for you, and it's a good ass question. I was actually going to ask you this, Connor, before my guy the lunatic did. I'm gonna pull it up right quick. And when we're talking about all those positions that were, the one tech and things of that nature, here's the good question that he was talking about, because I was thinking this myself. Says, with our draft selection, will our draft selections be affected if our new defensive coordinator is a 4-3 guy? Like, do you think that they're going to stay committed to that 4-3 and they're not going to touch a 3-4? And then they're just going to draft accordingly to that? Or do you think they're going to still try to mess with a 3-4? Because you said yourself that you don't think Mike Nolan's going to be gone.
Well,
I know. I didn't say you didn't think he was going to be gone. I didn't say that. I was going to say that you said he might be gone, but you ain't for sure.
Right. Yet. I don't think it's a sure thing that he's out the door. And again, if it was up to me, he would be. And I think, I think there's probably a good chance that he is, but I think there's also a good chance that he could be coming back. So, I mean, it's a good question, because obviously there's guys that you're going to grade differently as a 4-3 end than as a 3-4 end and all that stuff. A guy like Micah Parsons, for example, we talked about his ability to rush the passer. He could probably do that from a 3-4, but not going to be a guy you're going to want to put his hand in the ground and just have him consistently, rushing from a 3-point stance. So it's going to change some things. But I think with what this team's going to do with their first round pick, which is probably more than likely going to be a corner, it's not going to impact it. And even with the second, let's say that I just don't see a situation where they use the first or second round pick on a defensive lineman or edge rusher. So I don't see it having a big impact on this team in 2021 because of where I think they end up going with those picks.
Okay. Good answer. Well, man, hey, dog, bro, this was some good shit. This was some good ass shit, like real talk. This was some good fire. I'm gonna replay this and listen to a lot of the selections that you talked about, because it's gonna help me, because I don't really start messing to the draft until like the beginning, like January, because so many things change, man, before it gets to April. You got it now. we won't have like some of the All-Star games, and obviously games have been canceled because of the COVID. So it's a really weird year. And that's why I said another reason why you should trade down and get multiple picks, because you got your scouts have to be beasts this year because you had plenty of games canceled this year. I think the East-West Shrine game is not going on. I know the Senior Bowl is, but, you know, people can't go. So you're just not going to be able to see a lot of evaluations. And plus with the COVID, Connor, a lot of those scouts, they go meet the coaches and get to, you know, get familiar with the players. They're not able to do that because of COVID. So you don't get them personal one-on-one. So you really got to know what you're talking about. That's why I said you got to get a whole bunch of picks, because if you miss on something, at least you got to gather a pick so you got other players behind it, because I think it's really going to be hard to evaluate with this COVID season going in next year, because top players opted out this year too. So, you know what I'm saying? You're talking about Michael Parsons. He didn't play. You feel me? So you going off a whole year before. So that's going to be tough. So we'll see how it goes, man. But really appreciate you jumping on here, man.
Sure.
You're great with what you do, man, especially with this draft. I know you had a book out last year. Are you going to do that book again this year?
Yeah, I'll be doing the draft guide again this year. Hopefully I'm going to get it out a little bit earlier this year, you know, kind of beginning of April instead of right before the draft.
Go get that. And it's a good price too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like $5 last year.
$5 holla. $5 holla. And you see what this man was talking about today, dog? He just gave me the Bible. He was a deacon. He was preaching the word today. And I said, oh my God, he was preaching the word today. So if you get that book out, man, and you see that price for $5, I'm trying to tell y'all right now, go get this damn book, because Connor be knowing his shit. Even though Dalton Miller said you trash. You know what's coming. I'm not gonna let you get off.
I hope he's listening, because a few weeks ago on our podcast, he said Marvin Wilson was a top 10 pick. Was going to be the first pick.
Uh-oh. I'm going to get you on here, dog, and I'm going to get you. You said that, I'm going to get you. Because he's going to be coming on here soon. So I hope you listen, dog. You said he was trash, and you said Marvin. Okay, bro, I got to talk to you on that one, Marvin. Yeah, you know more than me on that, dog, but we still going to talk about that one right there. But, man, appreciate you, dog. Let everybody know where they can find you, your Twitter handle, whatever you got going on, and especially, like, when you're going to probably get that draft book popping, because y'all really need to check that out, man. And go follow Connor, because he's good at what he does, especially with this draft coming up.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Connor NFL Draft. All my, you know, Cowboys draft content's up there. I'll pretty much respond to whatever you tweet at me, as long as you're not being a complete asshole. So we can argue back and forth, and we'll talk. And then I write for Blogging the Boys. I podcast for Blogging the Boys, so you can check that stuff out as well on bloggingtheboys.com. And that's where all my draft and Cowboy stuff is as well. So that's pretty much my rap sheet, and I appreciate you having me on, man.
Now, I appreciate you coming on, and you're going to come on again when we get close to this draft, so we can talk some more good players, and we can talk about them early and then come back and say, hey, this has changed now. Where do we go from here? So I definitely want you back on again. Sure. Please go follow Connor, man. I'm telling you, dog, you got a wealth of knowledge. Really, you're a really good guy, man, and I really appreciate the talk. I'm going to stay on here a little bit and talk with the people right quick, but, man, I really, once again, appreciate you jumping on, spending this time with me, really schooling and educating me on these players, so I can go back and check myself, so I can get my weight game up. So just definitely salutes to you, man. Keep up that great work that you're doing, and be talking to you soon, and get you back on the show, because we're definitely going to talk about this some more.
You just let me know. We'll do it again.
Hey, man, I appreciate you. Give everybody give Connor a big salute, and we'll be talking to you soon, big dog.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, man. Be safe.
Appreciate it.
Man, Connor was some fire, bro. I don't care, man. Connor, I like when Connor comes on. That kid knows his stuff. I call him a kid because I'm a lot older than him. That kid knows his stuff, though. And please go get his draft book. $5 is a great deal. This kid breaks it down like no other. Gave a lot of good knowledge, schooled me on a lot of good players that I kind of didn't know about yet. But like I said, I'm going to rewind this tape right here, and I'm going to check it out for myself because, like I said, it's going to help me get my mind right on the draft. And then, like I said, we'll bring Connor back on later again so we can go back and go through about the players that he talked about and see if things have changed from December until maybe February, things of that nature. But once again, great shout out to Connor. man, I really like that, man. Connor, he's a great kid. I like him. Shout out to you guys out here in the feed. Brandon Boyce, what's up with your big dog? Uncle Charles, what's up with you, bang? Showtime 53, what's up with y'all? Yeah, man. Connor is good, man. He is really, really good. Can't wait to get him back on, man. He knows his shit. I like when you talk to him, you spit stuff, you ask a question that might be complicated, he comes with a player that you like, oh, okay, I like that. So shout out to my guy Connor Livesay once again for joining me on the show. Also, tomorrow's Saturday, right? Got my dog Boss Cowboys on tomorrow, man. We chopped it up earlier today. He's got his own thing going on, man. I think he got his podcast and his official show up, the Boss Cowboys Sports Show. I saw some of the highlights of it. Looks really good. But we missed the last couple weeks because I think he was getting his stuff popping over there. So we're going to get it in tomorrow on our final thoughts before the Cowboys play the Niners. So you won't want to miss that. Me and Boss, we do our thing when we kick it. Always good talk with him. And then, we'll see how he's progressing with his show. And so hopefully, we can send people his way to go really support him on his show and what he's doing over there. But it was a great talk, man. I appreciate everybody that was in the feed. I appreciate all the good questions, the great comments that were here today. I really like you. Really just, how we do. Like Boo Thing said, Goon Squad. I got my Goon Squad. We Goon Squad over here. We don't play no games over here. We just have a good time. And if anybody gets reckless over here, we getting your ass up out of here, Goon Squad, baby. You talk reckless, you're going to be gone. Goon Squad's going to get you. So that's what I'm excited about, man. And I'm excited about tomorrow's talk with Boss. And then we'll see how it goes on Sunday with these Niners, man. I hate them. I don't like the Niners. I don't like the Redskins. We got swept by them. All the teams that were my hated teams, I hate the Niners. I hate the Washington football team. I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Philadelphia Eagles annoyed the shit out of me. And guess what? We got swept by Washington. We lost to Pittsburgh. We lost to Philly. And now we got San Francisco, who I can't stand either. So if we were to lose all those teams this year, that just will put me in a depressed state of mind. You'll never know it, but I'll just be sitting in the corner mad as shit because I hate losing to those teams. So hopefully we'll see what happens. As long as these guys are playing hard, hopefully we can see a Reggie Robinson signing, maybe a Bradley and Nye. These guys need to get on the field. I believe everybody's going to be active as far as in the secondary. I think Trevin Diggs, Livesay, Donovan Wilson, Anthony Brown, I think are all going to be able to play. That's why I wanted to see a George Edwards jump in there. I know he wasn't going to be playing with a full deck, but my thing is in 3 weeks, what does it really matter? I mean, you already know what you have. I just want to see if you got rid of a Mike Nolan, how the guys or the players will react these last 3 weeks under a George Edwards. But we'll see how that goes. I don't instantly want to go with George Edwards as the defensive coordinator because as we had talked about time and time again, I'm not saying he's a bad choice, but just like with the Mike McCarthy thing, I wanted Mike McCarthy. I can't front and say I didn't. But there still should have been more of a search. There shouldn't have been, okay, this is our guy. Let's do the Rooney Rule with Marvin Lewis, and then let's go ahead and scoop him. I feel like you still should have did more interviews. You should have went through some more other people because, you could have met some other people and said, whoa, I like Mike McCarthy, but this dude just blew me away. I might think about something else. You get what I'm saying? He might not have been the main choice if they would have looked at other people. And what I want them to do on this defensive search, if they get rid of Mike Nolan, is not say, okay, we're comfortable because we want to go back to this 4-3. I got George Edwards who's already in the fold. Let's just go ahead and slide him in. Not saying that George Edwards can't do the job, but I want a thorough search with other coordinators. And you sit down with everybody first because you can say, well, let's just slide him on in. But there could be 4 or 5 other guys that you really could be impressed with, but because you already got your mind focused on one thing, you already go to that, and you might miss out on something great. So that's the only reason why I say go through the whole interview process with a bunch of other people, then solidify and say, okay, this is who we're going with. We like George Edwards first. I interviewed 6 guys. I still like George Edwards rather than say, oh, it's already yours. And you didn't give nobody else a chance. You get what I'm saying? You could have met somebody else that was better. So that's my main thing. Take your time, do a thorough search, and make sure you get the guy that you really feel is right. So we'll see what happens with them Joneses if they actually do that. You know, like I said, I don't trust anything they do, so we'll just kind of see how that happens. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you, Ori. I think all them times that Green Bay was kicking our ass and Mike McCarthy, that sold him. And plus, I just feel like the main reason why he got McCarthy is just when you listen to Jerry Jones in his interview. He said, I want to go with somebody who's got experience, that's already been in the trenches, been there, done that. Because Jerry didn't want to start over because the dude's 78. He getting older. He don't got time for that, if I can speak in his words. And I think that's why he went quickly with Mike McCarthy, because he saw his track record over Green Bay and how he was beating our heads in. It made sense to him. And I'm not giving up on Mike McCarthy, but what I will say is McCarthy's going to have to do a hell of a job next year. He's going to have to step up his shit, because other teams had injuries this year too. I don't want to use the injury as an excuse for no Mike McCarthy, because teams were winning with injuries. We were in games we still should have won, even with all the injuries and Dak Prescott out. We still should have won some games. So that falls on the coach. It falls on the players, but it falls on the coach because the coach is leading them players, and he got to get them guys right. And it's just been a big kind of just discombobulation, if I could say that word this year. Discombobble. Everything just looks discombobble with Dallas this year. So they got to really tighten that up, because other teams had first-year coaches too, and I didn't see a lot of this with those teams. So we'll see how that goes. But do Lunatic got a question for me? Let me see. The Lunatic asks, who you think our starting cornerbacks will be versus San Fran? Well, I mean, if Diggs is fully good, he's definitely going to be our starter. And if Cheeto is ready, I think it's going to be Diggs and Cheeto. And then you'll throw Brown and Jordan Lewis in that slot. But I think if Diggs and Cheeto are fully healthy, they're going to be our 2 starting cornerbacks. So we'll see how that kind of goes. It'd be the first. I mean, would this be the first time? I can't even remember. Would this be the first time that everybody would be available as far as the cornerback position? Because if so, that would be crazy. That's wild. If this will be the first week that everybody would be together, that's wild. Let's see. AC Money says, then what is our biggest problem on the field? We tried making changes and it did not work. Well, I will say, AC Money, I think it is a combination of players and coaches, but I don't think that scheme is just so super complicated. I just think, honestly, we may just not have the super football IQ players that we thought. When they played under Rod Marinelli runs more of a basic system. So the guys didn't have to think about things. They just reacted to it. And they just one play. It's like I said, it was a one-gap system on Marinelli, shoot up the field and go. When you're on the Mike Nolan system, more two-gapping. So the linebackers have to be able to see where that D tackle shoots the gap, and they have to play off accordingly. And we weren't having a lot of that. Like I said, I wasn't hyped about the Mike Nolan thing, because if you go through his history, he hasn't had great defenses. In Baltimore, he had a good ranked defense, but that's when you had Ray Lewis and all those guys back in the day, and Marvelous Lewis was there first. I just feel like we don't have really strong football IQ players in positions, and I think that's what has hurt us because you see so much second guessing from the players, and this is week 14, and we're still second guessing and still missing gaps, and I mean that's frustrating. So it's both, but it's up to the coach to get these guys right because they were productive with the regime prior. So this is kind of weird. Draft time says, do we need a draft a tight end? I think so. So I want to trade back and get Kyler Pitts. I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, I talked to Connor about that. I don't think they're gonna touch the tight end position. I think they seen what Dalton Schultz did this year. I like speed. I still want speed at the tight end position. But I wouldn't get no tight end early. No, I definitely wouldn't do that. No, not doing that. Because we need to go hard on defense. Like this needs to be a fully defensive draft. Get a gang of picks and go hard, and maybe you get a tight end later, or like you said, an offensive tackle. You get a receiver, but this got to be a linebacker, D tackle, safety, corner, edge. Y'all got to hit it all, and y'all got to roll up these picks. So for me, I wouldn't draft a tight end early. And, you know, you're not going to really get some of them dogs that are late. So maybe they just, re-sign a Blake Bell. And, you know, if Blake Jarwin comes back fully healthy and you got a Dalton Schultz, that's not a bad 1-2 combo, even though I still want more speed. Okay, so about to close it out here because I gotta go to work early in the motherfucking morning, man. I got an hour drive to work. Ugh. I gotta be at work at 8 in the morning, 9-hour day. So I'm gonna get off here and try to get me some sleep so I can do this long day tomorrow, and then we're gonna come right back at it tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central. Well, me and my dog, Boss Cowboy. It's been a couple weeks since we did it, so we'll be back in action tomorrow, Saturday, with our final thoughts at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you're there for that. It's going to be another good show, man, and you know, we get that pop for Sunday. So I appreciate everybody who's in the feed, man. I appreciate everybody who's commenting. Appreciate all the questions. The love you guys show, my members, my subs. Just like I think my guy said, we're almost at 5K. That'd be great to get there, and then let's just keep pushing afterwards. I got some improvements on my restream, so I'm going to be doing some new things to my show. So you'll be seeing some of those improvements within the next week or so. And then, like I said, Jim, my guy Gambino, both of your stuff is sent out this weekend. So y'all should get it within 7 to 10 days. All right. And I think that's going to be it for me, man. I got to get me some sleep, take me a nice hot shower, and give me some good sleep. Hey, ho, Showtime 53. With the $5 holla. Appreciate you, Showtime 53, man. Just trying to keep everybody, in the loop. We want to bring good shows, bring good guests, and always bring good Cowboys knowledge, but let's bring real Cowboys knowledge, not none of the fake or anything like that. Not saying anybody else is doing that, but I'm just saying from here, we just always want to keep it real all the time. So let's just continue to do that. I appreciate you, Rue. And I appreciate you, the lunatic. I appreciate everybody, appreciate you, Jim. We talked earlier today. I'm glad we got that clarified. You're my dog for life. Love you guys. Can't say it enough. I'm turning out that tie, Jim. I mess with the Tide, man. Tide is that good shit. You know what I'm saying? If I can get some more, I'm trying to get my hands on some more of that good. We got the little pods. That stuff like $40, man. And they gave me a nice big one, and they said they were gonna give us another one. Now they're trying to be all funny and they don't want to give it up. I understand it because that stuff is gold. When I take out them pods and put it in the washer, I feel like $1,000,000. Like real talk. There ain't nothing better than your clothes smelling fresh. There's nothing better. I remember when I was younger. I'm gonna just say this. I would be riding home from football practice on my bike, and I don't know what it was, and this ain't just white people. So please, I know y'all gonna be like, I can't believe you just said this. It's not just white people, but man, damn. I would drive by, and this is when I lived in a predominantly white neighborhood. When I lived in the hood, I didn't smell this laundry smelling good like this. But when I moved to the white neighborhood and moved into the nice neighborhood, and I rode by the crib, I was like, man, that laundry smelled good as shit. Don't smell like this in the hood. Out in the night neighborhood, golly, that laundry be smelling good. Yeah, I know, boo. I'm just keeping it real, like no trying to be funny or racist or nothing. No, I'm just saying. When I moved to the white neighborhood, when my mom moved to the white neighborhood, that laundry was smelling good as shit when I drove by their houses, and it made me want to get the good. We need that, Mom. We need that soap. We need that laundry soap and them dryer sheets because I want my clothes when they come out. There's nothing better than that. I'm just keeping it real. Y'all know. Ain't nothing better than when you pull that laundry out and you seen the commercial. It's real. You know when you're feeling good, that shirt and everything just smelling all fresh. You walk by somebody, they do this. Just saying. But I'm gonna get off of here, man. I gotta get to work. But I love you guys. Thank you for jumping in on the show, man. Thank you for the likes that came up. Appreciate all that. And I just appreciate you guys all the time. I appreciate you guys all the time. I appreciate every time I want to make sure I say it as much as I can, but every time we do a show, I am always grateful for you guys jumping on here and, taking the time out to listen to myself, the guests I bring on, and just the support. And I always want to make sure you guys know how much I really appreciate you. I really, really do. I appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart. And that's why I try to go hard and, continue to try to, grind and give the best content I can because I want to bring the best for you guys because you guys are really good. And I just want to always tell you how grateful I am for you guys. All right. So love you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Me and Boss Cowboys, 8 p.m. EST. Final thoughts. Don't miss it. You know how we do. I'm out, baby. Peace. You know what that is.